Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here with Suzanne and I as we continue to explore how to stay above the line. And today's topic is resiliency in leadership, how to stay above the line while navigating challenges. Suzanne, how are you today? What are you excited about for today's conversation?
I'm good, thank you. And I like how you assume that I am excited, because I am excited. And I think resilience is such an interesting topic because I sometimes hear it misused a little bit, like in organizations when we want to push more change through or have our project teams and project managers and executives work harder. We kind of say that they need to be more resilient. And I think it's misleading because resilience isn't just about toughening up and being able to work harder. So that's actually what I would like to unpack with you today. What is it really, and how can people work with it?
Yeah, that's great. Let's start, I think, with a definition of resilience. And so I love to use the HeartMath Institute's definition. The HeartMath Institute, if you haven't heard of them, are a nonprofit organization that uses research and education to promote heart-based health and heart-based leadership and well-being. And they define resiliency as the capacity to prepare, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, and adversity. So let's say that one again, because that's a mouthful. The capacity to prepare, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And so that to me is the ability to bounce back. So, things are going to happen to us, but we are going to be able to bounce back. And personally, I used to think about that resiliency was about how to muscle through, exactly what you said, Suzanne, about, how can we muscle through and do more with less? How can we muscle through and just get it done? How can I muscle through and just keep going, regardless of what situation we're in? But I've recently figured out, and even, I've done all this work for many years and read all of these books, but the pennies just continue to keep dropping for me. And I got certified earlier this year to teach the HeartMath Resiliency Advantage program. And as I was doing that program, I was unpacking and learning more about resiliency and applying it for myself. And through that work, I realized that resiliency isn't about brute forcing it. It's not about surviving against all odds. It's about being able to move through life with grace and ease and allow things to happen and allow your emotions to come up and, allow yourself to feel strongly about things, but also allow yourself to have the space to sort of consider why you are reacting or responding and respond more appropriately and bounce back and be able to give yourself what you need to stay resilient or to stay above the line, because that's our podcast, that's what we're talking about. But so I think resiliency is about moving through life with the grace and ease and non-judgment, and just building that awareness of what's coming up from us, what do we need to learn from, and what do we need to do differently to just stay in that above the line mindset. So I don't know, Suzanne, how would you define resiliency? What does it mean for you?
Well, first of all, I really like how you bring in the HeartMath Institute. I think that was one of the things that we both connected around. And, interestingly enough, I signed up with them last night, a course that they're doing online. So they're the real deal. We have no financial or any other interest in the Institute, but I think we can both recommend their work to everybody listening. It's all science-based. And I might offer up an image to go with this description as my definition of resilience, because I like to compare it to a tree. So if we imagine a tree is rooted, and what happens when there's a storm is that the tree will not bend completely, but it will kind of be flexible enough to adjust with the winds, because if it wouldn't be flexible, it would be easier for it to break, actually. So the trees almost, they adapt to the winds. And when it stops being windy, the tree will kind of come back. And what we see in nature, of course, is if it's like I'm Danish, right? And even if I've lived in this country for 25 years, if you go to the west coast of Denmark, you'll see that the wind always blows one direction. You will see all the trees leaning in one direction. But it's the same with people. If we have a lot of wind all the time, eventually it becomes more difficult to come back to equilibrium. And I think another interesting thing to observe when we use this analogy with trees is that normally there is a storm or strong winds, but we don't constantly have strong winds. It's not the majority of trees that are tilting to one side. And if we think of modern workplaces today, what is a storm or strong winds? It is a lot of pressure before a deadline. It was working under stress. But we're not built like the trees. We're not built to be under stress all the time. So imagine there are 5-6 weeks without strong winds, and all of a sudden there's one night with strong winds, and we go back to having calm weather again. But of course, and as people, we're not built to be in stormy weather all the time. We're just not built to work around the clock, to not have any rest and recovery. And this is one of the bigger topics that I coach people on. I see people, sadly enough, they work with global teams and they feel they always have to be on, so they never get that recovery, the strong winds all the time. So sorry, it took you a little bit on a story there, but that's how I would frame resilience. I like this tree analogy.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to have an image of what you think of when you think about this. And I think the image of the bent trees is a good one. We can all sort of remember seeing that at some stage in our lives. I mean, I think the HeartMath talks about resiliency as we are all, as human beings, we are energy beings. So we have an energy to us, and we can either be sustaining and enhancing our personal energy, or we can be draining our energy. And so the HeartMath defines emotions as renewing emotions or depleting emotions. So a renewing emotion might be, feeling compassion, feeling gratitude, feeling joy, or just feeling at ease and feeling calmness. And a depleting emotion might be something that's sadness, or, feeling a little bit depressed, or feeling under the weather, or just feeling fatigued or overwhelmed or stressed. And so we can learn to build our resiliency capacity by experiencing more of the renewing emotions and less of the depleting emotions. And so going back to the conversation we had last time was around self-awareness. We need to sort of build that self-awareness around, well, how am I feeling right now? And is that feeling renewing my emotions, renewing my energy, or depleting my energy? And I think it goes back to above the line or below the line, right? So above the line, those activities that we talked about being above the line, feeling trust, feeling compassion, feeling like you have empowerment to chart your own course, like those are renewing emotions. And the below the line, feeling like life is happening to you and you don't have autonomy and you don't have the ability and agency to change how life is happening to you, those are depleting emotions. So it's like your cell phone, right? If you take your cell phone and you didn't put it on your charger overnight, the battery would be depleted in the morning. You wouldn't be able to use it. And so we're the same. We are energy beings. So we have to remember to bake into our day those activities that help us renew our energy level and increase our resiliency capacity. And the more we do that, the more we build our capacity for more and more resiliency. And I think as leaders too in our organizations, we need to be using these tools with our team and helping our team see that they need to bake in time for them to recover also. I mean, if you think about world-class athletes, their recovery time is just as important as the exercise and practice time, if not more important. And so we need to bring that, I think, into our business lives and even into our personal lives, and just remember that recovery is really important. So Suzanne, for you, what types of situations renew your energy or might deplete your energy?
It's interesting because as you're speaking, it makes me think of an exercise that I did 15 years ago when I was a very stressed out project manager. I read this book called Energize. I still remember it. it had such a big impact on me because I was in this situation. I felt drained. And one of the exercises in the book was to go through a typical day for me and list anything that drained me or anything that replenished me. And I sat down and I was like, okay, a typical day, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I realized that my energy was okay up until 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., what happened was that most people would leave the office. And that's when I had time to go through my emails. You know, you've been running all day, you've been firefighting probably. And that's when I had the quiet time to sit down. And I realized that that half hour or full hour with my emails, that's when my tank went poof, or my battery just drained. And once I had that insight, I began to restructure my day because I think it was just a question of I needed more recovery time. I couldn't be in the office for that many hours without getting outside for a walk or something. So I began to restructure my day. And I also became more aware of what energized me. So what energized me back then might be a bit different to today. But in today's world, because I'm much more aware of these things, I have much more recovery time. But I can still get drained if I get short-term requests that change. You know, if I'm about to travel somewhere to deliver a workshop and they change the requirements or they change the number of attendees or something like that, you know, that can kind of I can tend to find that draining. And I think that's the same for perhaps many people who listen. If we get these short-term or changes that happen with short notice, not short-term, with short notice, that can throw us off. And for me, I have many things in my toolbox that energize me. Luckily, it depends what the season is right now. In the UK, it's getting colder, and I like a long hot bath that kind of really replenishes me. But otherwise, I get out. I work a lot from home, so I get out and I walk amongst the trees here. Blessed to have many parks in London, so that also energizes me. I watch myself talk. I have many tools that can help me replenish my energy. And as we've talked about before, the most important is to be aware. Gosh, I feel a bit low now. I need to do something to replenish. I need to do something to charge my batteries.
Yeah, so I love that point, right? So being aware, because I think what we often do is when we recognize we're low, we walk to the kitchen and we grab another cup of coffee and we feed ourselves more caffeine to keep going and keep charging forward. But at those low points, you actually have to sort of step back and take a true recovery time, which might be just as simple as getting outdoors for 5 minutes and doing an exercise that we're going to share with everybody today. It doesn't have to take an hour. You don't have to go off in the middle of your day and take a long walk or take a bath, right? You can reset really simply during the day. And so I love to get outdoors too. And I do notice for myself, because I work from home mostly, if I just walk into my office and I haven't been outdoors, by mid-morning, I'm starting to feel a little bit antsy and feeling a little bit low energy, and I'm missing sort of that fresh air. And so sometimes I'll go out mid-morning and have a walk as well. But I think that awareness of how are you feeling and what depletes, I love that exercise that you did in that book, just recognizing and charting what's depleting your emotion or draining your energy and what's renewing your energy during the day. You know, again, I think someone could take a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle and write what's draining them and what's renewing them, and just keep a log of that for a couple of days, and you'll start to see the patterns. So I want to share another sort of view on resilience from the HeartMath Institute. So they talk about 4 primary domains of resilience: physical flexibility, mental flexibility, emotional flexibility, and spiritual flexibility. So the physical flexibility, I mean, we know what that is, right? That's just staying fit and healthy. And from a physique perspective, just being able to be healthy, go out for a walk and do whatever it is that fits within your physical well-being. Emotional flexibility, that's the recognition of depleting versus renewing emotions and being able to self-regulate, recognize when you might be feeling low, recognize when you might be triggered, and sort of inject some space there to respond and not just react. That's emotional flexibility. We also can talk about that and know that as emotional intelligence sometimes. Mental flexibility, that's the recognition of the chatter that goes on in our head, and just being aware that the chatter is not necessarily you. Like, I have a hand, I also have a mind. And my mind is not necessarily me. My mind is going to be chatter, 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 because my mind is there to keep me safe. That's a whole other conversation about how our brains evolved. But just know for now that your mind is not necessarily you. And the chatter that goes on in your mind isn't necessarily something you have to listen to 100%. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not right. Sometimes that chatter can lead you to be self-critical, self-judgmental, and it's not healthy for you. So I think mental flexibility is the ability to recognize what that chatter is and be able to set it aside and not get sucked into the story that it's telling you, and also maybe being able to quiet it as well and have some peace from that sort of ongoing chatter in your head. And then spiritual flexibility, that's really about judgment and, being tolerant of other people's diversity in their thinking and in their beliefs and how they're showing up, and being able to not judge yourself for what you think, and everybody can decide what their own thoughts are around their spirituality, but it's really about being tolerant for yourself and being tolerant for other people. And they use the word flexibility to describe all of this, because resiliency is about flexibility. It's about being able to adapt. And when we build our capacity for resiliency, we're building our flexibility muscle. We're building our own ability to not be phased out or alarmed by changing situations, right? So situations will change, priorities will change, things will come up at the last minute. You can navigate your way through those with resiliency by not necessarily reacting to them, but you can notice it and go, oh, interesting, that really annoys me. I'm wondering, why do I get annoyed at that? Like, why, it is what it is. Can you move into okay, it is what it is, I'm just going to adjust. And so that's I think the capacity for resiliency is building your capability to be more flexible in the face of things that are changing around you, and not let them take you out, and be able to just maintain your balance and your grace and your ease, and not be sort of drained and fatigued by the things that come up. So that's a lot.
I like those four areas. Maybe I'll just recap for people. So we have the physical resilience, we have the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. That's very comprehensive. I really think that's great. I mean, in my work, when I work with people, I often distinguish between where is the emotion and what is the thought. I don't tend to work with people on the physical, right? Or maybe I should, but yeah, that's very, very helpful. And I hope people got those 4 different parts. And you have a tool for us.
We have a tool. So today we are going to share the HeartMath quick coherence technique with everyone. And we will give you a link to this so that you can do it on your own. But we're actually going to try it out right now ourselves, and Suzanne and I will model it for you. So let me just tell you what this is, and then we'll dive in and try it out. So it's a very simple technique that we use to bring our heart and our brain into coherence together. And what people might not know is that your heart rhythms dictate how you feel throughout all of your body. And if your heart rhythms are in this mode of balance, and you're feeling appreciation, it's like being in a car where you're in cruise control, right? Over here in the States, everybody drives automatic cars. You can shift them into cruise control and you can just go. So when you're in a coherent heart, you're in cruise control. And if you're in an erratic heart rate, your variability is more erratic, It's like you're hitting the brake and the gas pedal at the petrol pedal at the same time, right? So it feels very jerky. You can imagine if you were hitting both of those nonstop, you're just constantly jerking your car. And so that feels that way in our body too. So what we're doing with this technique is we're regulating our breath. We're using our breath to regulate our heart rate. That is then sending a message to our brain to regulate our brain's thinking patterns. And then our brain is sending neurotransmitters into our body to reduce these sort of calming and reducing the stress hormone that might be firing throughout our body. And it very, very quickly, within seconds and minutes, can regulate our entire system. And there's been studies that have been shown to show what the heart rate is before and after. And it really can show how this works. So what we're going to do is we are going to focus our attention in the area of our heart. We are going to breathe more slowly and more deeply than usual. And we can inhale for 5 seconds, hold it, and then exhale for 5 seconds. We'll just let everybody sort of count that in their head. So step 2 is to make a sincere attempt to feel and experience a regenerative emotion, such as the emotion of gratitude, or maybe you're walking on your favorite beach, or you're going for your favorite walk, you're feeling the sun in your face, you're hugging your favorite dog, and we want you to sort of really feel that emotion in your heart, and then you're going to hold that there for a couple of moments. And you can do this exercise with your eyes open or your eyes closed, whichever way you feel like you want to do it. And it's good to do it with your eyes open, because you can do it when you're walking into meetings, you can do it when you're talking to somebody. Nobody ever needs to know you're doing this exercise. And the more you practice it, the more you can bring this into your day-to-day experience. So Suzanne, are you ready to try it out?
Absolutely, bring it on.
Okay, all right. So step 1, we're going to focus our attention in the area of our heart. You can hold your heart like this if you want, or you can just imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, and breathe a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than usual. Now take a moment to experience regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life, and feel that in your heart. Okay. So how do you feel after that quick exercise, Suzanne?
I must say, I feel it's very powerful, and I feel something has changed. I was not in the stressed out state before, because I've been speaking to you and feeling quite comfortable. But I must say, I feel, oh, and I even forgot that we were like recording, so I was very calm and yeah, it's calming. It's beautiful, and bringing to mind something or somebody I feel appreciation for, that just stepped it up a notch, and so I feel very, very even more peaceful and calm. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's so easy, right? I mean, I think sometimes as humans we look for complicated answers. And this, to me, I feel like is so accessible for pretty much everybody. And the hardest part is just remembering to do it.
But I know you said before that we can do it even as we're walking into a meeting. And I would say I think there is a difference. I agree we can, but even as you were talking, I was slowing down my breath, but there was a difference when we stopped and I put my hands on my heart and we took enough time to really let the breath slow down. It was so much more powerful. So what I want to say is, yes, we can do it as we're walking to meeting, but focusing on it 100% and imagining and bringing to mind something or somebody we feel appreciation for. I think it's stronger if we can do it 100% focused.
Yeah, I think also the more you do it, the better you will be able to do it at those moments that really count. So I recommend taking a minute to prep the start of your day by doing this technique. It might be in your car on your way to work. It might be just 5 minutes at the start of your day. Maybe build in some reset moments in your calendar through the day where you take the 2 minutes, because really you can take 5 minutes if you want to, but 2 minutes will get you there as well. And just take the 2 minutes through the day to reset, and then that will help you sustain. And then at the end of the day, it's a great exercise to do before you come home, particularly if you're coming home to maybe a busy family life where you're getting straight into kids' homework and dinners and all that sort of stuff. This will help you reset. And then in those moments where you are maybe moving into a meeting or you're talking to someone and you're noticing that your mind is racing or you're thinking about something else or you're not 100% present, you can sort of do it really quietly for just a 30-second time frame to just bring yourself back into the present moment and give that person your full attention or give that meeting your full attention. And that lets other things sort of fall away. The dial on the other noise that's going on outside of whatever that interaction is gets turned down, and it helps you really focus in to the current moment as well. And the research is incredible. The research shows that people who do this activity and this very simple tool multiple times per day, they can increase their resiliency capacity. And there's a graph that shows where most people sort of fall down from eustress and then high potential, high performance, way down into the overwhelm and burnout cycle. And the people who do this sort of end up at a much more even place, and they're able to sustain their energy levels, and they're not feeling as fatigued at the end of the day or through the day. They don't experience that mid-afternoon slump. And I would also say that if you are feeling low or feeling tired, you could take the 2 minutes to do this exercise and it will rejuvenate you really quickly right there and then as well.
Yeah, I just want to chip in there because I have been also familiar with the HeartMath Institute and the research for a long time. And this is backed by research. People can notice what's happening in them as they breathe this way, honestly. In addition to that, it is not something they're imagining. It is highly studied, and it's also something that I write about in How to Do the Inner Work. I've got that coherence breathing technique in there, and it's powerful stuff. It's beautiful, and when we enhance it with that feeling of appreciation, it further enhances it. And people can measure it. You can measure the level of the blood. You can put EEG on the body and measure what the heart rate does. So it's good stuff. It's simple and it's powerful. Yeah.
That is a great way to close. Thank you, Suzanne, for those final words of wisdom. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We look forward to hearing how you're going to leverage this really simple and powerful tool to prep, sustain, and reset your energy as you go about your day. And so please come back, let us know in the comments how you're doing, how these tools are working for you, and what you are starting to notice and experience in your everyday life as a result of building your awareness and using these tools every day. And remember, it's only by taking action that you experience real change. So bye for now.